You're not coming back, are you, Daddy? She asked. I haven't definitely decided yet, I told her. I'm leaning toward staying. You girls are the only thing that will keep me coming back, and I'll fly to you anytime you want me to. I'll come a few times a year to see you. What about Mom? She asked. I grimaced. Is she okay? I guess, she said. She's mostly working. I know she regrets everything. How do you know? I asked. Well, she didn't talk about it in so many words, but she seems, I don't know, reserved. She's not the simmering, energetic person she used to be. I think she's sad. I don't think she found the dating scene as wonderful as she thought it would be. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, I said. If it's all the same to you, Sylvia, I'd rather not talk about her, okay? She gave me a sad smile. I know, she said. We shrugged off the bad vibes and had fun that night. I drove her to the airport, and she left with hugs and tears, promising to return soon. Beck flew in February, and it was pretty much the same, except she wanted to stay with me in the camper. We spent 3 days at the beach. After lunch on the third day, she asked, "Where do you really live, Daddy?" I told her, and she wanted to go there. We slid the convertible roofs on and hit the road. It was quite a long drive, and we had a great time on the road. When we pulled up, she saw the view of the lake, the 2 barns I had built, the lot, and she loved it all. I can't believe you have such a beautiful place, a cute little house, truck, and you actually live here, she said. I'm a lucky man, I said. It would only be better if you lived here. She gave me a hard stare. I have no idea how I'm going to make a living. I'd like to use my degree. Do you know what my degree is? I asked her. I'm sure you told me. I don't remember, I just know you have it. It's agribusiness, I said. She laughed. Farming? What do looms have to do with it? I got into machine tools because I worked at a farm implement dealership, I said. We were constantly getting combines coming in with sheared pins. I got the idea to start making harder pins from there. It just went from there. I had no idea, she said. Well, I mean, there are ways to use your degree, and there are ways to use your degree. Explain this, you're a psychologist. What do you mainly do? Listen to people's concerns, she said. Bartenders do that a lot, I told her. She laughed. Yeah, I guess it is. She had 2 weeks and then flew back. I missed her badly for a few weeks and then went back to my cynical lifestyle. 6 months later, she called me. I need a favor, she said. If I can do it, I will, I said. I need a loan. Are we talking about a big loan, or are you just short on cash? Big credit, she said. May I ask what it's for? You don't trust me? No, I want to. I'll lend you whatever you need. I was just toasting you, I said. I want to buy a cabin. Well, that sounds interesting, I said. Is it an existing lodge? Does it generate income? Can I look at it online or something? You can, she said. I was hoping you'd go there. I was confused. Where? How far? 10 miles, she said. It's on Lake Barak. Really? You're frying me again. No, she said. I studied their books with an accountant. They make good money. They have a bar, so I could listen to people's problems. She giggled at that, and I laughed along with her. Oh my God, honey, that would be a dream come true for me. How much do you need? She showed me a staggering figure. Jesus, Beck, you swung for the fence, didn't you? Go big or stay home, I said. Don't you have enough? Not if you pay me, I said. I'll prepare a payment plan. It should be pretty short term. Once I own the business and can show I'm making a profit, I'll get bank financing. Right now, I'm in the position of someone with no credit rating, she said. I understand, I said. That's so cool, Beck. I can't believe you're doing this. God, it'll be so great to have you here. I'll take a look and let you know what I think, but you have to come and see for yourself. She arrived 3 weeks later, and we looked around the place. It catered to fishermen mostly from the U.S., and it was a very good investment, I thought. Another 6 months passed, and my daughter became the owner of the business. She ran it well, and things were going great. Davy became a bit of a celebrity. He was pampered all the time and was in doggy heaven. Beck and I spent a lot of time together, and I hung out at the bar all the time. Beck worked at the bar sometimes, and it was fun to watch her do her psychology work. She had a first-class restaurant, and the locals often ate there. It was always crowded, but she had a table in the kitchen, and they always found a seat for me. I was there Friday night in the kitchen, and the chef asked me if I minded if he sat another guest with me. I wasn't thrilled, but what the hell, sure, I said. He left, and when he came back, there was a woman with him. My jaw dropped to the floor. God, she was gorgeous. She was elegantly dressed, the yellow number accentuated her swarthy complexion. One shoulder was bare, the length came to just below the knee, but there was a slit on one side, and when she walked, a gorgeous brown leg was visible. Her hair was a mane of glossy black curls with some graying in places. Her forehead was high and wide, and her huge eyes were so dark they appeared black. She had high cheekbones, classically beautiful full plump lips, and a slightly pointed chin that gave her face a heart shape. He held out a chair for her, and when she sat down, he introduced us. Miss Valiente, this is Mr. Barton. He's the father of the lady of the house. I stood while she sat down. I sat down and held out my hand to her. Barnes, please. No, Mr. at dinner, I said. She laughed, a low musical sound that made me want to hear it again. You can call me Nita, she said. Her delightful accented English was flawless. Her voice was low for a woman, a little husky, but smooth as velvet. Apparently, she had already ordered because the serving girl brought her a glass of something that looked like sangria. I struggled to find something to say. This beauty shocked me. It's pretty crowded, I said. Lucky they have that table, she replied. Yes, I didn't make a reservation, she said. Usually Thomas finds me a seat, but tonight I didn't want to sit at the bar. There's someone there I wanted to avoid. I see, but it doesn't matter. I'm glad whoever it was because it meant I could look at Nita, hear her words. Well, you're safe with me. My mission in life is to keep obnoxious guests away from beautiful ladies, I said. She blushed, a peachy tint appearing on her cheeks. I'm very pleased to have a gallant protector, she laughed again, and goosebumps ran down my skin. Do you dine here often? Yes, I said, like Thomas said, my daughter owns this place, and even though I can cook, I'm the only one who has to cook, so I come here. Ah, sweet Beck, she said. I like her a lot. She and I are becoming friends really well. I'm glad to hear she's making friends, I said. Do you live nearby? There is, she said. I have a house on the Siloa River. I live there most of the time, but also in Los Machos. You obviously live nearby, I laughed. Well, yeah, I'm pretty mobile, Nita. I have 5 acres of land nearby with a couple of buildings, and I also have a truck and a camper. I've got wandering legs now, and I like the fact that I can go anywhere at any time. I see, she said. You recently moved here from the U.S., like Beck? I've been here about a year, I said. I came before Beck. She came to visit, fell in love with the place, and bought this. See, what brings you here? She asked. It was fishing at first, I explained. Yeah, and it kind of is now too. I got a chance to sell my business in the States and satisfy my craving for traveling. What kind of business did you have? She asked. She hesitated, then said, I apologize, it's none of my business. I laughed. You don't have to, I don't mind. I've made parts for companies like Caterpillar, John Deere, and others. Ah, the industrial tycoon, she said, giving me a brilliant smile, and the whiteness of her teeth illuminated that beautiful swarthy complexion. Not likely, but I've been retired for a long time. But you are so young, she said. Yes, I was lucky, if indeed retirement at 49 can be considered lucky. I'm not retired, she said. I could be, but I feel like I have things to do. Which ones exactly? I asked, if you don't mind my asking. I'm a smuggler, she admitted softly. The look on my face made her laugh. I'm not really a smuggler. I own a pharmaceutical company. We supply prescription drugs to the Mexican Social Security Institute. Wow, that's impressive, I said. That's why I live in Los Mochis too, she said. She looked at me speculatively. Maybe I should retire and become a Barnes like that. What do you say? Loose legs and fantasy, I laughed. A slacker and a dreamer, she smiled. Yeah, I didn't have English. You speak amazing English, I said. I speak Spanish, but better than me, she asked. We switched to Spanish. I'd like to know what you do, I said. Tell me about N. Ah, you want to know? Nita smiled at me again. Yeah, I repeated. Just because you and Beck are friends. You know, she laughed. Yes, I can see that's your reason. I have many acres of land along the river, and I have a few horses, but lots of cattle. What kind? I asked. I have registered cattle of the gay breed. Do you know them? Well, I personally don't know any such, I said, causing her to burst into a fit of giggles. But I know about them. Barnes is very amusing, she said, pulling herself together. I'll have to introduce you to some of them in person and correct that flaw in your familiarity. It was my turn. I didn't giggle, as giggling is unworthy of a man, but I had a good laugh. Anita is a very funny woman, I said. I want to ask, and you may say it's none of my business, but does Mr. Valiente exist? No, she answered. He used to, but not anymore. He worked in a petrochemical plant. There was an accident, an explosion, and he was hit by it. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Nita, me and my big mouth. No, it's acceptable, she said. It's been 11 years. I remember, but only the good times, you know? Yeah, I nodded. The pain of losing a loved one subsides, and you remember all the good things. What about Barnes? She asked. Beck obviously has a mother. Yes, and I have another daughter named Sylvia. She's 3 years older than Beck, I said. I pulled out my phone and showed her a picture of Sylvia. She's very pretty, she said. She doesn't live here? No, she lives in the States with her mother. My wife and I divorced almost 2 years ago. Is this a sore subject for you? She asked. It was, I said, but less and less each time. We wanted different things. She wanted to open up our marriage, sleep with other people. I didn't. In short, I'm very sorry to hear about it, she said. Well, that's life, I said. Say, Nita, do you think I could take you out to dinner, maybe next weekend? I'd love to, but just not this coming weekend, she said. I have to leave for Los Mochis the day after tomorrow, and I won't be back until next Tuesday. Maybe the Friday after I get back sounds wonderful, I said. Can I get your number? I'll make a reservation and send you a time, okay? Yes, give me your phone number, she said. She entered her phone number into my contacts. Maybe when you pick me up, I'll introduce you to some cattle, she giggled at her joke. I walked her to her car. It was a brand new silver-colored BMW Z4. Nice, I said. I walked around her and admired her before opening her door. She kissed me on the cheek, and it was like I was electrocuted. You were a very charming dinner companion, Barnes, she told me. Thank you for letting me join you. Believe me, the pleasure was all mine. I don't know how I'll look forward to this dinner to see you again. You have my number, she said. Give me a call. Late afternoon is best. I will, I promised. I closed her door and watched her drive away. My God, this was an exquisite woman, and she was going out with me too. When I walked into the house to say goodnight to Beck, I thought I was high and walking on clouds. She lived in a cabin, and I knocked on her door. She opened the door and looked very excited. Did you like her? She didn't hold back. Isn't she a fire? She's so cute, Daddy. Did you ask her out? Oh, you set me up, she giggled in her best evil voice. Yes, I did. Good Jesus, honey, how did you get her to do that? She loves me, Beck said. I told her about you, and you're perfect for each other. Did you ask her out? Yeah, she's going away for a week, but she said she'd have dinner with me next Friday. That reminds me, I need to find myself some transportation other than the truck. You can have my car, she said. Thanks, Beck, it'll work for the short term, but I'll have to get my own. The next day, I texted Nita, I can see it happening. 2 evil women are conspiring against me. She sent me some smiley faces with hearts and smiley faces. Yes, resistance is futile. I take it Beck confessed, my own daughter. I can't wait for a dinner date, she sent me another batch of emojis. My anticipation was such that each day seemed like an eternity. I hadn't felt this way since I was in high school, waiting for my first date with the girl I was in love with. Then I remembered my conversation with Collins about remembering when we were 25. She wanted that excitement, the bright colors, the sense of anticipation. Oddly enough, I found all of that. I wondered if she had found it. I wrote to Nita once a day, and she sent me 2 or 3, skipping a day here and there, and twice I called and talked to her. Talking to her was a new experience for me. She was switching from Spanish to English, telling me about her day, and I found it so easy to communicate with her, as if we were friends and had been for a long time. She called me when she got back, and the excitement only grew. I drove the truck to the cabin and took Beck's car. I didn't mind driving the truck with the camper, but it seemed awkward for a first date. I drove along the river, following the directions on the phone. There were few houses, and the road ran along the river. The phone told me to turn onto a paved path, but there was a gate in front of me. There was no house in sight, but I noticed a call button on the numeric keypad. I pressed it and waited a second. Hola, it was Nita's voice. Lois too, I said. She laughed. I am very pleased at your arrival and feel you will be a delightful companion. I will see you off. The gate opened, and I drove down the driveway. It was maybe 2 miles long with all the different branches, and I was wondering if I was lost when I saw the house the woman lived in, a huge sprawling mansion. It stood on a steep cliff overlooking the river, and the view was spectacular. I rang the doorbell, and within a minute, a young girl opened the door. She was gorgeous and looked to be about 12 or 13 years old. I saw an older woman standing in the back of the entryway. She held out her hand and said, "Greetings, Sir Barnes. I am Pia. Nita is my mother. I'm very happy to meet you." "Pia," I said in Spanish. "I see that you look a lot like your mother. You are as beautiful as she is. Do you speak English?" She developed the same delightful blush I had seen on her mother. "Yes, I speak English, Spanish, and French," she said. "I know English better than French." "I'm sure you're good at all of them," I said. "Yeah, I want to take your mom out to dinner. Is that okay with you?" She gave me a critical look. "Yes, you are, as they say, very charismatic for a man with insanity," I laughed. "You're a little flatterer, and I'm not old," she giggled again, quite like her mother. That was really bad. "No, besides, you're Beck's father, and I love her very much." "Same thing," I said, taking my hand. She led me through the entrance and into a large open space. It was the living room, dining room, and kitchen. "This is Zanetta," she said, introducing me to the older woman. "Nice to meet you," I said. "She's my friend and takes care of me in the house when Mom's not here," she explained. "Mom's getting ready." Would you like a drink, Mr. Barnes, while we wait? What do you suggest? I asked. I drink lemonade, she said. We also have a lot of juices and adult beverages. Lemonade sounds delicious, I said. You don't need to call me Mr. Pia, just Barnes is fine. Yes, just Barnes, she said, her huge brown-black eyes flashing at me full of laughter. That name seems very strange, though. That cheered me up. You're a doll, I told her. And a jokester. Yes, I love to laugh. We have lemonade on the back porch, Zeta. I'll go and pour it. Just Barnes, she giggled again. Stay here with your invite, P. No need to despair, Zeta said. It's all right. I said, I'll go with Pia, and I won't neglect her. We took tall glasses of cold lemonade and carried them into the living room. The entire south wall was glass, the door sliding open, and she led me out, still holding her small hand in mine. We went out onto the porch, down the stairs, and onto a huge mahogany deck. There were large vine-covered beams suspended from large leaf-shaped fans that rotated slowly, giving us a stunning view of the river and valley. I really like it here, Pia said. We'll sit in these chairs and have a conversation. She was one hell of a charming girl. I've only had one conversation with your mom, I said. Personally, I mean. Somehow, the subject of Pia never came up. She was no doubt embarrassed to have such an impressive daughter. She said she never tells anyone about me for fear they will like me more than she does. We were both laughing about it when Zanetta appeared, carrying a pitcher of lemonade. Thank you, Zanetta, we said at the same time, making Pia giggle again. I see you're one of those who steal other people's thoughts, she said. Yeah, I told her. Everyone around me wears tinfoil hats. I think we have some, she said. Should I warn my mom? No, I said. I need to know what she's thinking to make her happy. By doing this, she tilted her head, pondering. It's a very good plan, she said. Barnes has perfected it. Well, this is my first date in years, I said. I need any advantage I can get. Say, Pia, I want to spend days and days talking to you, but do you think your mom will be ready soon? Mom really likes to show up socially, she said. I expect her to show up so you can admire her anytime. Thank you for that remark, Pia. I heard that voice, low, husky, tinged with the smoke of old jazz clubs and red wine. We turned around, and a vision appeared at the top of the stairs. God, she was breathtaking, heart-stopping. She was perfect in white. The dress was pure white linen, very simple and elegant, some lace at the neckline hanging beautifully to mid-thigh, sleeveless, with smooth, sly skin exposed. Above and below, on her feet, were tan platform sandals with straps on her calves. She wore a wide-brimmed white hat on her head and posed to impress. See, Pia brought me out of my stupor. You're very pretty, Mom, don't you agree, Barnes? I had to clear my throat before I could speak. Yes, of course, Nita, you're gorgeous, she smiled. I see you've met the Priel. Yes, and it was, I said. Pia, it was a pleasure to meet you, and I hope to see you many more times. You are a charming lady. I finished my lemonade and walked over to extend my hand to my companion. Somehow, you never mentioned to me that you had this little beauty, I said. I wanted her to be a surprise, she said. I thought that when you met her, you couldn't help but love her. I know you love your daughters, and I wanted you to love mine. She's my life, Barnes. Yes, I can see that, and I understand why, I said. The restaurant was as good as I had heard. My companion was beyond competitive, and 3 doors away was an establishment called Salon Tampa. It was a real treat. There was a stage and the biggest mariachi band I had ever seen. It was a riot of colors and music, and I danced with Nita. It was a separate adventure because she was the best dancer I had ever seen. She made me make a huge effort to at least get close to her. She knew everything from traditional Mexican dances to salsa and tango. The last number we stayed for was slow and sweet, and holding this fiery beauty in my arms was something men performed heroic feats for. The trip back to her place went mostly without my participation. I was in a world where it was just her and me. It ended at her door, where she kissed me, and that was the highlight of my life up to that point. Before I left, I was invited to take Beck with me and spend the day with Nita and Pia the following Saturday. She let me take the snap to send Beck and reached out to touch my cheek with one soft palm, running her fingertips over the marks, making me feel a sense of euphoria, and left. Sylvia called me Tuesday afternoon. "Dad, when would be a good time for me to hang out with you and Beck?" she asked. "How about 8 tonight our time? I'm having dinner at her place, and she should be free by then." "Nice. Could you ask her and send me a snap?" "I can do it," I said. "Is something wrong, dear?" "No, not really. It's no big deal, and you don't have to worry. I just need to talk to you." "I need to talk to you all the time," I told her. She laughed. "Send me that snap." "Love you, Daddy." "Love my girl," I said. Beck was fine with it, and we were sitting in her living room when we got the notice. After the usual conversation, she moved on to what she wanted to talk about. "Dad, Beck, I hate living here without you. I'm tired of dating jerks, as you so politely call my boyfriends. I hate my job, and my mom makes me miserable when I'm around her. I want to move." "That would be out of the question, Sylvia. Do you think you could get a job?" Beck was beyond excited. "I think I've already bought one," she said. "I'm going to buy the travel agency that books the cabins on the lake." "They book your place too, Beck." "Wow, you've really studied this, haven't you?" said Sylvia. "I'd love to have you around, and I know Beck would." "Are you sure, darling?" "Positive," she said. "I wanted to talk to you guys first in case you didn't want me." She sobbed slightly, and it broke my heart. "Sylvia, I'm so sorry I made you doubt that," I said. "I love you, baby. I'll always want you, no matter what, as long as I live." "I know we had a little fight about Mom," Beck said. "I love you too. You're my big sister. You spanked Jamie Myers for picking on me when I was in first grade." This elicited a slight, watery giggle from Sylvia. "I did, didn't I? He was a creep and bullied my little sister. When do you think you'll put it all together?" I asked. "It might take me a month or two," she said, "but I've already gotten to work. It's so exciting." "Beck says I can't wait," I said. We talked for another hour, and it seemed like it was done. Sitting in the camper that night, I thought about how my life was turning out. It seemed like I was going from one peak to the next. Beck had moved in, met Nita, who I hoped would be a big part of my life, and now Sylvia was moving in too. Couldn't be better. On Friday, I asked Nita if she wanted me to bring anything. "Beck tells me you make a very tasty pico," she said. "Bring it over." I went to the market, bought some nice fresh ingredients, and made a big bowl. On Saturday, we took the truck to Nas. I wondered what Nita and Pia would think of it. After all, they were clearly not poor, neither was I, and it wasn't that I couldn't afford a house, it was my choice, and I liked it. But would they think I was a cheapskate or something? That's something we'll find out. Pia ran out as we pulled up and threw herself at Beck as soon as he got out. She came over to me and was a little more reserved, but still hugged me. "We're going to the river," she said. "Mommy made everything for the taco feast." "Yum," Beck said. "Sounds great, come inside," Pia said. "Mama and Zanetta are packing." She took us both by the hands and led us inside. We walked into the kitchen where there were several coolers and baskets on the bar. They were busy putting plastic bowls and utensils into the baskets and drinks into the coolers. We helped, and everything was quickly ready. "Barnes brought his truck," Pia said. "It'll be perfect for transporting us." The way she phrased it made me laugh. What a delightful girl. We loaded into the car, Beck and Pia climbing into the back seat. Nita sat in the front with me, and we drove down the driveway, making a few turns as she pointed. "It's good to have you with us," I said. "I would never have found my way out of here." She laughed. "There are several places you can go," she said. "There are buildings on these roads for different functions." "What kind of buildings?" Beck asked. "Horse barns, equipment barns, storage barns, livestock barns, paddocks, and things like that," Nita said. As we walked to the river, there was a gazebo and dock, and 3 jet skis and cradles sticking out of the water. There were 2 picnic tables and a grill under the gazebo. "I was planning to heat everything up on the grill," Nita said, "but you brought your house, and we can use your stove, right?" "We can," I said. "All the comforts of home in a small package." "I'd really like to look inside," Pia said. "I've never been in a house like this." "Well, I'll give you the grand tour," I said. We put the taco shells in the oven to get crispy, and I gave them a tour. Pia got to lay on my bed, sit on all the chairs, and check out every appliance. She and Beck carried a load of our stuff to the tables, and I took the opportunity to grab Nita and kiss her. She was in complete agreement and lit me up with one of the hottest kisses of my life. She pulled away and looked into my eyes, her SWY complexion colored with a pink blush, and she was slightly out of breath. "Hello, beautiful," I said. "I couldn't wait for you to be alone and do this." She chuckled. "Well, it's encouraging to know you wanted it." "I wanted it too," she whispered. Beck and Pia came back, and we made our late lunch. They were all bragging about my pico, but it was all very good. We sat and chatted for about an hour, and then Pia asked if we wanted to go jet skiing. The girls were wearing shorts and t-shirts and went to change. Pia came out first and chatted with me while I looked at the system that raised and lowered the jet skis. Beck and Nita went outside, and I went inside and put on my swim trunks. When I came out, one jet ski was already in the water, and we quickly launched the other 2. "Can I come with you, Barnes?" asked Pia. "I'd love to," I said. "Don't you drive them?" "I want to," she said. "Maybe we'll switch. I'll drive, and Mom will go with you after a while." Beck and Nita took off their stall ES, and I lost my ability to move for a moment. I had fallen completely in love with Nita. When we were together, I was happier than I had ever been in my life. When we were apart, thoughts of her filled my head, and I dreamed about her at night. I lived in anticipation of the next time we could be together and missed her every minute of our separation. We texted constantly. She started using Snapchat, and every message had her picture in it. We kissed at the end of every date, and I wanted her in every way. I was very careful. This little lady was special, and I wanted every move to be perfect. Beck fell in love with her, and Sylvia, when she arrived, fell in love with her too. The 4 of them, Nita, Pia, Beck, and Sylvia, were always doing something together. Sometimes it was me, and sometimes it was just the girls. On Monday, I called Nita and told her I would like to take her to Tulum for the weekend. She called me back immediately. "Really? I've never been there, but I've heard it's gorgeous and has Mayan ruins," she said. She was in Los Mochis, and I told her I would drive there, and we could fly out of there. "What about Pia?" she asked. "Is it just for the 2 of us, or do you have a plan for her?" "I was planning on taking her with me," I said. "I was going to see if Beck and Sylvia could come too, make it a family celebration of sorts." She was silent for a moment. "Barnes, I'm very touched that you consider Pia and me family. You are a very good man. I'll be glad of that, and I hope Sylvia and Beck can come. They are very much like my daughters, you know." "I know they love you very much," I said, "and they love Pia too." "Do you love me very much?" she asked. I was taken aback for a moment, but quickly came to my senses. "Nita, I want to tell you everything in person, not over the phone." "Okay?" "Yes, I understand. I apologize for asking you over the phone. We will go to Tulum, and I will ask you again in person." I laughed. I can see I'm not getting out of this situation. I checked the flights. One leaves at 3 in the afternoon. Will you be able to leave by then? I asked. I'll arrange it, she said. Ride carefully with my daughters. It turned out that Sylvia and Beck could go, and Pia was over the moon when I told her that. We loaded into the car and set off on the long drive. It was one of the best trips of my life. Pia sat in the back seat with Beck and served as our official DJ. We took turns picking out songs. I hated most of them, and they groaned and rolled their eyes when I made my choices. We picked up Nita from her apartment and took a truck to the airport. There were no problems, and we flew through friendly skies. Everything in Tulum was as promised by Sylvia, and I was glad she knew her stuff as a travel agent. She suggested one of the all-inclusive packages. Our hotel was on the beach and was luxurious. On Saturday, we walked on the beach, played in the blue water, and in the evening, we went to an open-air restaurant. Beck and Sylvia said they wanted to take Pia to the beach party and informed us that she would be staying in their room that night. They left, and Nita and I were left alone. We walked back to the hotel, and I put my arms around her, pulling her tightly against me. Well, that wasn't suspicious at all. I think we were set up, Nita, she laughed. I think you're right. Do you object, Barnes? I asked. Not if you don't. I love it if you do, she said. I'm quite content. I took her to my room and made us drinks. We sat down on the small couch, and she snuggled up against me. Nita, you asked me if I love you. I want to tell you, I love you more than I ever dreamed I would. From the moment I met you, I have thought of nothing else but you. You have filled my heart, my mind, my life. I love you so much, I expressed. She raised her head and looked into my eyes, deep, almost black, full of fire and emotion. That makes Nita very happy, she said. I love you, Barnes. After Hermano died, I didn't know if I could ever love again. I grieved for a long time. But now, I have you, and you own my heart. My heart belongs to you, she said again. I want to give you the rest of me too. Oh my God, Nita, I wanted this from the first time I saw you, I said. You're the most gorgeous woman I've ever met. I didn't mean to scare you off. I'm not afraid, she said. The only thing scary would be if you didn't love me, didn't want me. Am I crazy? She asked. I'd have to be crazy not to love you and not want you. God, Nita, don't ever doubt it. You're the most desirable woman I've ever seen. I can't believe there aren't thousands of men standing at your gate trying to find an entrance every day, I expressed. She chuckled. I don't need thousands of men, just one. After our dialogues, we made love and went to bed. I woke to the sun streaming through the gap in the curtain and my dusky goddess sleeping in my arms. She looked so beautiful in her sleep, calm, peaceful, innocent. As we dozed in languid satiety, someone knocked on the door. Come back with a warrant, I shouted. From behind the door came a woman's giggle. Daddy, let us in. It was Beck. I threw on my robe and Nita pulled the blanket over herself. All three girls rushed into the house, pushing a cart loaded with breakfast. They parked the cart, and Beck and Sylvia rushed to the bed, pouncing on Nita, laughing and talking nonstop. I sat down in the chair, and Pia came and sat on my lap, wrapping her arms around my neck. Waves of her midnight hair swirled above us. You love her, don't you? She said. I love you, and I love you too, I said, hugging her tightly. I love you, she said. I knew you loved us. Mommy is in love with you. I asked her, and she told me. I want to be your daughter like Beck and Sylvia, she said. I couldn't help myself. Tears of happiness and love rolled down my cheeks like a river, and I clung to her as hard as I could. I'm honored that you feel this way about me, sweet bug, I said. I'm going to try very hard to be everything you need me to be for you. Are you marrying Mom? She asked. So we can be a real family, you know? I looked back at Nita and the girls. They were all looking at me expectantly. There's nothing in the world I want more, I said, but I think I should talk to your mom about it, just the two of us, and I'm not ready right now. I leaned toward her and whispered, I don't have a ring. Ah, she said. Yes, I understand. We had breakfast and then hurried downstairs to catch the shuttle to the Mayan ruins. It was an impressive, awe-inspiring sight, and the fact that under one arm I had a gorgeous woman looking at me with love in her eyes, and on the other side, I was being held by the hand of a little brown girl who was sometimes substituted for one of my daughters, made it even more special. We flew back Monday morning, tired, happy, and with indelible memories. We dropped Nita off. She had 2 more days of work to do, and I took the girls ring shopping. There were mostly small stores where jewelers made their own pieces, and we found an elderly gentleman from the Cajita tribe who made exquisite jewelry. He had a large collection of stones, among which was a red-orange fire opal which all the girls liked very much. I don't think it would make a good engagement ring, I complained. We need diamonds, for example. No, Mom would be thrilled, Pia said. She told me she was finding diamonds. We all laughed. Pretty much the same, Sylvia said. Doesn't make sense. Did she really say that? I asked. Yes, several times, Pia said. See, Dad, she'd love it, Beck insisted. I let them talk me into it, and we compromised by setting 4 small diamonds around it. The jeweler said he could make it in 2 weeks and send it to me. When I got it, all I had to do was pick a time and place. I told Nita I wanted to come and go back to that little gazebo by the river. I think she knew what it was about, but she just told me to come when she was free. We took her quad bike, and it was a perfect evening. Pia was very curious, and when I told her what I was doing, she had to hurriedly retreat to her room to avoid giving herself away in her excitement. I knelt down in the gazebo, and when Nita noticed it, her hand went to her mouth. I took her hand and said, Nita, I am not good at speeches, but I love you with all my heart. I don't want to live without you in my life. I don't want to live without Pia either. Will you marry me? I will do everything in my power so that you never regret your consent. I opened the box, and she held out her hand. I put the ring on, and she said, Yes, Barnes. I want so much to be your wife. I want to love you always. She raised her hand, admiring the ring. I can't believe you have a fire opal, she said. It's my favorite stone. A little birdie told me, I said. I think I know that bird, she said, her eyes filling with tears of happiness. When we got back to the house, Pia was already waiting for us and was running from one to the other in excitement. I can't believe it. You're going to be my father. Suddenly, she burst into tears. I knelt down and hugged her slender figure. I thought this would make you happy, baby girl, I said, pressing myself against her. Yeah, I was hoping. I thought we'd never find anyone. You found me, I told her. I'll never let you go, Pia. She clung to me and sobbed for a few minutes while I hugged her, then pulled away again. It's such a fire, I laughed. You've been hanging out with Beck too much, you're starting to sound like her, she chuckled. She's teaching me a lot of good words. We set the date for December 5th, and I was the happiest person in the world when Nita walked down the aisle in gold. She said she had been in white before, and this was new, so she was breaking tradition. I moved in with her, but she insisted we keep the camper. We might want to go on a long vacation, she said. We'll use it, I promise. I took it off the truck and put it on stands. We used the truck for its intended purpose, and it was much more comfortable without the camper. I don't think I was ever happy. The only hitch came in the 2nd year of our marriage when Sylvia came to me and said she needed to talk. We were sitting on the deck, and she mustered up the courage. Mommy wants to come visit, she said. I sighed. Well, I guess it was bound to happen sooner or later, honey. When is she coming? She wants to come for Christmas, she said. Sylvia, what do you want, dear? I asked. She found it difficult to answer. I wanted to spend Christmas here with you. I know Beck is staying here, and I was going to stay too. Now I have to spend at least part of Christmas with my mom. Beck doesn't want to, so I'm staying with her. I still love her, Dad. I'm sorry if this disappoints you, but I remember the way she was, everything she did for me, and what we did together. I pulled her to me and squeezed her. I know you are, Syl. I'm not disappointed in the slightest. I'm proud of you, she cried a little, and I hugged her. It's going to be okay. I know it's not what you wanted, but what is. You can still spend time here. It's going to be hard, but you can tell your mom that you already have plans for Christmas dinner. She'll have to deal with it. It's her fault, not yours. It's hard, she said. I'm going to have to deal with it. I just wanted you to know. What if she wants to talk to you, to see you? Let me talk to Nita, I said. She's smarter than me. Let's see what she has to say. Sylvia spent the rest of the day with me and Pia, and before she left, we had dinner together. Nita was in Los Mochis for 2 more days, and I broached the subject when she returned home. We sat on the sofa, looking at the fire in the fireplace, and I told her about Sylvia's visit and her news. She sipped her wine and stared thoughtfully into the fire for several minutes. What do you think of meeting her, Nita? I asked. I've been asking myself that question, I said. I suppose it was inevitable. She's the girl's mother, and I guess without thinking, I knew she'd want to see them at some point. I don't really have any special feelings for her, Nita. I don't think about her. I loved her for years, we had a lot of great times, but she ruined it all, and the good times are kind of colored by the way it ended. She snuggled closer and rested her cheek against my arm. I think we should all have dinner together at the cabin, she said. I want to get to know her, Barnes. Find out what she's really like. What if she wants to talk to you, to see you? I asked. Let me talk to Nita, I said. She's smarter than me. Let's see what she has to say. Sylvia spent the rest of the day with me and Pia, and before she left, we had dinner together. Nita was in Los Mochis for 2 more days, and I broached the subject when she returned home. We sat on the sofa, looking at the fire in the fireplace, and I told her about Sylvia's visit and her news. She sipped her wine and stared thoughtfully into the fire for several minutes. What do you think of meeting her, Nita? I asked. I've been asking myself that question, I said. I suppose it was inevitable. She's the girl's mother, and I guess without thinking, I knew she'd want to see them at some point. I don't really have any special feelings for her, Nita. I don't think about her. I loved her for years, we had a lot of great times, but she ruined it all, and the good times are kind of colored by the way it ended. She snuggled closer and rested her cheek against my arm. I think we should all have dinner together at the cabin, she said. I want to get to know her, Barnes. Find out what she's really like. Yes, she has been a part of your life for many years. She's been a part of Sylvia and Beck's life. I can go and meet her myself, I said. It made me nervous, but Nita was her own person and did what she thought was best. She was very independent and made me nervous a lot of times, but she went with the flow, never once faltering. I knew when Collins arrived, she lived in Beck's cabin, and I saw both girls less often after she arrived. I assumed they were spending time with her. Nita did go to meet her, though, and if there were any fireworks going on, there was no mention of them. I asked Nita what she thought. I like her, she said. Really? I asked. Yes, I think she's changed a lot, she said. Sylvia and Beck agree. She's become reflective, introspective. She's become very friendly with us. Well, that's a good thing, isn't it? I asked. I think so, she said. We were talking about you. God, I hope you weren't listening, I said. She laughed. Of course, I want to know about you. She didn't say anything bad, only good. I'll just argue, she smiled. Well, she didn't admire your intransigence, of course, right? I said. Well, anyway. I guess there was nothing wrong with that. You still snuggled up to me. No, It's nothing, she said. I adore you, Barnes. That's never going to change. Pia came in and snuggled up to us, and I hugged both of my dusky princesses. 2 days before Christmas, it rained like hell, and the river rose into a raging torrent. We had to go down and save the dock, carrying it up 3 times overnight. The water blew down 2 sections of our fence, and I got up early Christmas morning. One of our laborers helped me fix the fence. We ate at 2 o'clock, and I finished about noon. I expected Sylvia and Beck to have arrived by now. We were going to open presents after dinner, and the tree was almost covered with packages. I came back, but no one was in the house, so I took a shower and changed my clothes. When I was ready, I went to look for the girls. They were gone, although Sylvia's car was parked there. I made a spiced rum punch and a jug of spiced cider, put them on the heat, and drank the rum punch, the perfect Christmas drink. I thought I heard voices at the entrance, and the door swung open. Pia ran into the house and took the seat next to me. Davy came in and lay across our legs, sighing contentedly, and then snored, approving of the world at large. That smells so good, Pia said. What is it? It's rum punch, I said. Can I try? I let her take a sip, and she wrinkled her cute little nose. Ew, she said. It smells so much better than it tastes. I laughed. It's an acquired taste, kiddo. I also made spiced cider. Go get yourself a cup. She took one, and then Beck walked in. She noticed the pleasant smell too, but it turned out she really liked rum punch. Sylvia came in, and then my jaw dropped as Nita walked in, holding Collins's hand. They both saw the look on my face, and Nita hurried over to me. Don't be angry, Barnes, Nita said. Collins didn't have anywhere to go. No one should be alone on Christmas, so I called and invited her. I wasn't angry, but I wasn't happy either. Nita lifted me to my feet and dragged me across the room to Collins. Collins wants to talk to you, she informed me. Take her to the study, I said. I led her over to the counter and offered her a cider or punch. She took a cup of hot cider, and we walked to the office. Nita, Pia, and I had chairs, so I sat in mine, and she took Nita's. You look good, Barnes, she said. Thanks, you too, I said. She did too, still hot as hell and looked like she'd lost a little weight even though she didn't need to. She nodded. I owe you an apology, Barnes, she began. I behaved terribly. I was self-absorbed and only focused on my own desires. I realize now that I disrespected you, and it's led to consequences that will haunt me. I need your forgiveness. I understand if you think I don't deserve it, but I'm hoping you'll still be the man I married and extend to me the grace I don't deserve. I had contemplated my response. I won't deliver a grand speech, I replied. There were repercussions, and one of them liberated me to find what I have now. I was once broken, bitter, and resentful. Not anymore. I acknowledge that, she said, and I deeply regret causing you that pain. After a deep breath and a sip of punch, I spoke. I forgive you, I said. You know, Nita and Pia adore you. Collins, Sylvia, and Beck cherish you. You're their mother, Collins. You're always welcome here. Nita has spoken highly of you. The girls say you've changed, and that's a positive. I wish you a happy life. I'm finding my own happiness, and if you can accept that, I'll regard you fondly. Can we be friends? She asked. We'll see, I replied, but I won't tolerate any foolishness. She chuckled. No, I won't. You've landed on your feet, Barnes. I'm still trying to find my footing. Nita knocked on the door. Are we ready to eat? She announced. We gathered around the table. Pia said grace, and the room filled with laughter and joyful voices. I glanced at Nita, who smiled and winked at me. P was sneaking food to Davy, who was adoringly watching her. My daughters were chatting animatedly, and Collins seemed to be genuinely enjoying himself. It felt like it was going to be a wonderful Christmas. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it, so don't forget to subscribe to my channel and catch the next video.